Hello. So for this week's questions, we have what is critical literacy and why is it important? What is intersectionality and why is it important? And what does this mean for us, the educators? And so critical literacy in Berman's research article, he states on page 491 that critical literacy's agenda should therefore encourage teachers and students to collaborate, to understand how texts work, what texts intend to do to the world, and how social relations can be critiqued and reconstructed. And so, what that means is that students should begin to open their eyes to the structures that are around them, whether it is oppressive or non oppressive, to begin to question what are the purposes for what is around us and what we live in. What are the purposes for what we must learn? And how do we apply this information to create a more just world? And I even like in Cultivating Genius, Gholdy Muhammad's chapter 6 on criticality, she states, when youth have criticality, they are able to see, name, and interrogate the world, not only to make sense of injustice, but also to work towards social transformation. And let's stop there. Social transformation should be on all of our minds as educators. We see going on around us in a society that we are at a pause where people are beginning to open up their eyes and rethink the policies that have put us here in place today. She furthers, thus, students need spaces to name and critique injustice and ultimately have the agency to build a better world for all. Let's think about those last two words, for all. And that's a very good segue to go into the next question. What is intersectionality and why is it important? Intersectionality are the identities, the various perplexing identities that we all adhere to, whether it's your racial background, ethnic background, your socioeconomic status, just to name a few, or even your sexual preference or religious preferences. We must begin to create some sustainability and some acceptance towards people who are of various different intersectionalities or various different identities and give students the tools and the proper ways to approach people who are different from themselves, thus creating a more critical way of approaching people, a critical way of the policies that have been put in, especially in a society that is ethnocentric or mainstream on certain identities and they hide others. This is not creating a just society. Therefore, students need the spaces to be themselves, need the spaces to express their cultural identities. And furthermore, something that I do like that Dr. Sina Skelton says in her blog post about intersectionality is that these interconnecting systems of oppression have compounding impacts and can cause harm. And so she is referring to the oppressive systems as identities that are not mainstream, those that are pushed to the side, or people are actually in jeopardy of their own remedy of themselves or their realization of themselves and their existence in life because a mainstream society says that they don't exist. That's incorrect. That's something that we should strive to change in students and so that they adapt to other people. And so, what does this mean for us as an educator? It means that we have work to do. We need to be able to provide supplementary text, reading multiple perspectives, and reading from a resistance perspective. And what I mean by that is reading with the thought of how do other people interpret this text? What are the purposes of one text as opposed to another text that are on the same idea? And so when students have that critical eye, they are able to awaken themselves and look at the world in a different view. Thank you. I cannot wait to hear your views on it.